Welcome to episode 89 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Catherine
and Kristen, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club, where we take one book a month and dive into all the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Kristen.
So it is our second week with A Touch of Ruin. And this week, our little chat is going to center around villains, because Hades is, well, not technically a villain. He's sort of portrayed as a dick.
Yeah.
And we just have a thing for villains.
We do.
So our topic this week, our Would You Rather is, would you rather have a villain turn into a good guy, or a villain stay a villain?
Yeah, this one's kind of a hard one. Because, my thing with villains is I want them to keep their morals. So, when you're reading a book and it turns out that the villain is actually good, if those are the same morals he's had all along, it's just that he's now on a good side because more information came out or something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's still a bit different. He didn't turn into a good guy. We just realized that maybe he wasn't as bad as everybody thought he was. So yeah. I don't dislike that as much as somebody completely changing themselves because they fell in love.
Can I be honest though and say I feel like I haven't read that many of those? Where the villain actually changes himself?
Yeah.
To suit. I don't know if I've read, I don't know, the only one I could think of off the top of my head is, and I don't even know if it counts, is King of Wrath, right? And he's not exactly a villain.
Yes. Sorry. I was I know that book, processing, but I got there.
Right?
Yeah.
So, King of Wrath by Anna Hung?
Yes.
So the guy is an ass, but realizing he's in love with her, makes him change his ways. But, I don't know if I would consider, he's not a villain. He's, one of the main characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really her father's the villain in that story.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know if I could tell you a book I've read where the villain turns into a good guy.
Yeah. Other than, when you realize that they've been on the right side all along. Obviously, we've read many of those books.
And, yes, and I do like those.
Yeah. I also haven't read a whole lot of books where, the villain stays the villain but still gets the girl. Because, in most of the cases, you're reading it, and then you're oh, he was the good guy all along, and then he gets the girl. But, the ones where it's, the villain stays the villain, Shadow and Bone. He stayed a villain, but he didn't get the girl. And, he was awful. Obviously.
Yeah.
But I would have read that story as well if he did get the girl.
Yeah. And we were just talking about this before we recorded, but I just read Hooked by Emily McIntyre, part of her Never After series. And that one is more villain stays a villain, but still gets the girl. Mm-hmm. But also, and it is, it is a bit dark.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, you don't hate him because the main character, you learn about his circumstances and, you feel bad for him. You don't, he's the villain because he does, shady, illegal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, you feel bad for him?
Is this just a life moral that, when somebody's a main character and you, figure out more about them, and when you're in their head, nobody thinks they're the villain. People, obviously think that what they're doing is for a reason. So, is that what this whole, is it just a moral that, nobody's a real villain, and, once you empathize with somebody, you can,
see their point of view.
Yeah.
Oh God, we're getting into philosophy here?
Why? Why? It's too early for this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like it, though, when the villain gets to, like, stay a villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
More so, like, in theory, even though we haven't read a ton of them, I think I'd rather when the villain stays a villain because we're reading, like, romantic, we're reading romance-forward books, so I feel like you shouldn't have to change who you are to be loved.
Yes.
So, like, the whole villain turns good guy, like, I don't like that. Like, I feel like if you're falling in love with someone, you should accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
Like, if they're a serial killer, I don't know, maybe try and get them out of serial killing lifestyle, sure. But, like... If
they're killing bad people, then, you can justify anything if you're in someone's head.
Well, remember that movie, Mr. Right?
Oh my God. I love that movie so much. But he changed her into a villain.
Yeah, so Mr. Right, if you haven't seen it, it's one of our favorite movies. I think it's on Netflix. We may have talked about it before.
I don't know if it is anymore, but just...
Anyway, it has...
Anna Kendrick,
and...
I know it. I swear it. Oh my God. Sam Rockwell.
Right. So it has Anna Kendrick and Sam Rockwell, and he is a contract killer, but he ends up then, when you contract him out to kill somebody, he comes and kills you instead. And him and Anna Kendrick fall in love, and she has to wrap her head around the fact that he's a contract killer.
Yeah.
But
the chemistry is between the two of them is really what gets me.
Oh my God, it's so good.
And there's there's a 17-year age gap between the actors. And but their chemistry on screen together, I'm like, I buy this and I'm 100% in.
Yeah, and it's really good. They're both quirky and so Sam Rockwell is he's a very prolific actor, but he normally doesn't play the hottie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He plays the kooky, he tends to go for more movies that I wouldn't watch. He's one of my husband's favorite actors, but he does a lot of those introspective movies that get Academy Awards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's his jam, artistic sort of movies.
Yeah.
And that's not my jam. But in the two movies that I know of that I really enjoyed, he played Charlie's Angels.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he was the villain, main villain in the first Charlie's Angels movie. And then he's in this movie, Mr. Right, and he is hot in both.
He is so hot.
But, if I were to see him in one of his artsy-fartsy films, they don't portray him that way.
No. Even though he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, great movie. He's a villain. Stays a villain. 10 out of 10.
Turns her into a villain.
Yeah. He has his own morals too, though, because that's the thing. Once you get to know his morals, you're like, is he actually the villain?
Yeah. Well, I guess he's killing people.
Yeah, but do they deserve it?
Maybe.
Good times.
Anyway, so, I do like the villain staying a villain because when the villain turns into a good guy, he's changing himself, or she is changing herself, for their partner, and I don't think you should have to do that.
Agreed.
So I guess we will get into it. Just a heads up, this is not a spoiler-free zone, and things might get saucy. So we are on week 2 of A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair. Today we are going through chapters 7 to 14. So last week we read about Hades and Persephone, and they're struggling with their newfound public relationship. Persephone is still trying to retain a sense of anonymity, and it's causing problems. She encountered one of Hades' ex-girlfriends, and he didn't tell her about it. So at the very end of last week's episode, they get into a fight because he wasn't planning on telling her, except for the fact that she found out, and she got mad because in the first book, all he says is he wants her to communicate instead of, like, storming off. And now she's like, look at you, not communicating. And then she storms off.
Yeah.
Anyway, we also have to do a amendment because last week our Hades lover shows up and we were both calling her Luce.
Yeah.
Leuce. Catherine has started listening to the audiobook. That is not how you pronounce her name. It's Laoki.
Yeah, which I never, in my wildest dreams.
I feel like we should have, like, looked up all of these names beforehand.
Nah.
But we didn't. So, her name's Laoki. I'm gonna try to make it, to say it that way, but I might slip up, and if I do, I have a story. So, Persephone had stormed out of Hades' office, and we start today with, it's Monday, and Persephone is annoyed that Hades hasn't contacted her yet. And it just reminds me of, like, you know how sometimes you get into a fight with someone? I remember I used to do it all the time when I was a kid with my parents. Like, you'd storm up to your room and slam the door really loud so that they know that you're mad, and then you want them to come and, like, say, like, you want them to come up and be like, talk to you and say they're sorry and all that. And, like, I think I remember when I was a kid, one time I was like, I'm gonna run away. So, like, I packed a bag full of snacks, but nobody noticed that I packed a bag full of snacks. So I just sat, like, on the stairs waiting for someone to notice that I had a bag of snacks to take and that I was gonna run away.
With just a bag of snacks. That's all you need.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like this is her vibe a little bit.
This is her bag of snacks.
Like, she stormed out and she's mad that he hasn't come after her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, I agree. I would also, this is, again, and I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I would also be annoyed. I'd be like, I'm mad at you. You should come after me.
Really, though. Right? It just, this whole, everything about it. Communication. It's not even a miscommunication trope. There's just no communication in this book.
But, like, I do think she's not wrong.
No.
Like, she found out something he wasn't planning on telling her. She wants him to share. And, like, remember when they were up in the office and they were, like, about to have sex in his office, and she was like, I want to know everything about your world. I want to know your past. I want to know your future, like, all that. She wants to share his life. Yeah. So, like, for her to say that and for him to, like,
completely disregard it.
Yeah. Just be like, nah, I'm not going to tell you about this. Like, I get he thinks he's protecting her, but protecting her from what? Yeah.
They kind of do have this conversation this week, albeit after they have sex, at the very end. But I don't know. It's just this relationship. I don't know what that really relationship. That was a Freudian slip. This relationship, I don't understand it. I don't like the sex is amazing, but that's not enough for a relationship. I just like, you can say you love each other, but you're not really showing each other that you love each other.
Yeah. I feel like they learned that they were fated to be together and, like, we're sort of like, oh, well, I guess okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're sort of like, we have all the time in the world to figure out who each other is. when, like,
well,
really, what do they know about each other?
Yeah,
what's likable about them? Like, I don't understand why Hades likes her.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why she likes him at this point either. Like, apart from the sex, what about their character do they even like?
Yeah, if anything.
Because she doesn't like how controlling he is.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like how she's clinging to her mortality. He doesn't like her job. She doesn't like
his deals.
His, how he runs his underworld. She doesn't like how he, like, does his deals. He doesn't like that she writes about it. Like, I don't understand where their connection to each other is apart from the physical.
Yeah. She doesn't tell him that she's going to write scathing articles about him before she puts them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my.
Anyway. So yeah. So back to it. So she's, like, sitting in her office and she's just, like, brooding about the fact that she's just brooding in her office, annoyed that, like, Hades hasn't contacted her.
And she doesn't have a cell phone number for him, so she has no way to contact him.
Because he says, if you want to get in contact with me, just say my name and it'll summon me. And he knows how to get in touch with her. Stupid.
So stupid.
Anyway, Laoki actually shows up at her office and looks terrible. She apologizes to Persephone about the way she introduced herself, and she is asking Persephone to talk to Hades for her because, I guess, because she introduced herself to Persephone, made Persephone mad, Hades fired her from the job that she had at the bar and kicked her out of the apartment he had set up for her. So now she's, like, destitute and she has nowhere to go and has no money.
Which is so shitty.
It is pretty shitty. But, like, again, very Christian Grey of him. Because that happened. Similar thing happened, I said last week.
Yeah.
In 50 Shades of Grey. Well, 50 Shades Darker, I think. Yeah. So Christian Grey did a similar thing in 50 Shades Darker. Like, one of his ex-subs had, like, a mental break and held a gun at, like, the main girl. So Christian Grey, like, flipped out and then, like, said, like, if you contact her again, I'm gonna cut you off. I'm not gonna support you anymore. So, like, similar thing.
Yeah, it is very similar.
Hades just actually does it. So apparently Laoki said that Hades told her that he couldn't risk losing Persephone, so she had to go.
Which is just, like, so shitty because, like, this woman was a tree for 2,000 years or some shit.
2,000 years, yeah.
Like, and now you're just like, well, you're fucked. Live on your own in a world that you don't understand at all because you haven't lived in it. Sucks to suck. Okay.
Yeah. She also, like, I guess Persephone says something like, well, we're not even talking right now. He hasn't even tried to contact me.
Why is she airing their dirty laundry to, like, one of his exes? This is so weird.
But then Laoki actually says, like, oh, he's an idiot, and he probably thinks that you want space, so that's why he hasn't contacted you.
Which is...
And I'm like, this is a thing that men do.
100%.
My husband does this, and it really bothers me. I'm like, I don't want space!
I want you to tell me that you love me! And then I want to be mad at the same time.
Yeah. Yes. So, like, Persephone's sort of, like, questioning all of why Laoki wants her to talk to Hades for her, because she was like, you were just outside of his bar, like, screaming to talk to him because you didn't like where he set you up.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, well, she was like, it might have been like a shithole, but it was my shithole. And then she tells Persephone that she was ungrateful for what Hades had given her. But, like, she said, imagine waking up in a world completely unrecognizable, and, like, that's the worst punishment possible. And, like, I completely get it. But at the same time, Hades has a ton of money. He didn't have to set her up in a shitty apartment. He could have set her up in an average apartment.
Yeah.
Like one like Persephone. Persephone doesn't live in a fancy place.
Yeah. Also, why doesn't he get Persephone a new apartment?
Well, she wouldn't take a new apartment.
Well, now she's gonna have fucking 4 people living in her small-ass apartment. Makes no sense.
Yeah. So, I guess Persephone starts feeling bad for Laoki here and offers her to stay in her apartment until she talks to Hades. And, like, this is where a cell phone would equally come in handy.
Well, I just...
Like, remember we said.
I just don't understand. So she is fighting with Hades. So she is staying in her 2-bedroom apartment with her 2 now roommates, one of which was supposed to take her room. And now she's offering the floor? Like, what is she even offering her?
So, I guess, technically... So, yeah, she was supposed to be sleeping in Hades' place most nights. So, I guess Sybil was supposed to sleep in her bed, while Lexa was sleeping in her own room. And I guess the theory is that Laoki can sleep on the couch. But now that she's fighting with Hades, she's going to sleep in her bed. I think she said that Lexa has been sleeping mostly at her boyfriend's house.
Fair.
So Sybil will sleep in Lexa's room now, and Laoki can still have the bed.
Okay.
Or the couch.
I'll buy that.
Yeah. So, but again, this is where a cell phone would come in handy.
Yeah.
In all fairness. Because she could just text Hades and say, yo, your ex is at my office. Give her shitty apartment back so that she can get out of my face.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
don't be a dick to somebody just because
you and I are fighting.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Antony, the Cyclops, is still picking her up and dropping her off. So he picks both of them up and brings them home. But he calls Laoki a traitor, and he's not nice to her. And he wants Persephone to talk to Hades. But, like, she's like, no, I'm not reaching out to him, because she's still angry. So at her apartment, her, Sybil, and Laoki get drunk, start complaining about gods, especially Apollo. So Persephone starts to drunkenly write an article about him.
Yep.
For fuck's sakes. Last week, she promised Hades she would not write an article about him.
And Sybil.
Yep. But I guess Sybil is there, so she is almost like giving her 2 cents. So
she is, and she's like, but
they're all drunk.
This could also be like a therapeutic thing, to write an article and then never actually submit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that would be therapy, possibly, for Sybil. But what happens is not that. It is not therapeutic.
No. So after Sybil and Laoki pass out, she stays up all night, like, editing her article and refining it. And she sends it to Dimitri in an angry, drunken haze. And I'm like, you write an article drunk, and you edit it drunk. It's not gonna be
good.
No, it is not. I don't believe in it.
No.
So I don't know. But yeah. So then she throws up. As soon as she sends the article to Dimitri, she throws up because she knows she's in trouble with Hades and with Apollo, but tries to justify it by saying that because he kept secrets from her, she could go back on her word. And then she thinks to herself, I'm also keeping secrets. Because she hasn't told Hades about Dimitri's ultimatum with her. But her defense is, that secret won't hurt Hades. And, like, she needs to fight her own battles. So it's just a double standard that I'm not fond of.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, he can't keep secrets from her, but she can keep secrets from him because, like, it doesn't involve him. It's like, but it does. If you write an article about the two of them, that affects him.
100% involves him. Like, almost exclusively.
Yeah. Oh, God. Anyway, she realizes the article is going to hurt Hades because she broke her promise.
Fair.
Yeah. So the next day, her article was published.
The next day. 6 a.m. Papers come out, we assume.
Yeah.
She sent it in the middle of the night or early morning, and it is printed.
And, like, we're going to learn that copy editors, fact checkers, all that stuff does exist in this newspaper, but apparently somebody who's had a job at the newspaper for, like, a month doesn't need fact-checking and doesn't need copy editing. Apparently she can drunkenly edit an article and it be perfect.
Of course.
Ugh. Anyway, so she gets to the office and there are a bunch of protesters and haters outside the office yelling at her because... Yeah. Because Apollo is, like, the golden boy. He's, like, everyone loves him, even though he's an asshole.
Yeah.
So everybody is protesting her and calling her the worst.
I don't know what she expected any different. Like,
right? But I guess, like, she didn't get that with Hades, but at the same time, no one likes Hades anyway.
Yeah.
They're all scared of him. So.
But everybody told her, basically, that this was going to happen. That he's beloved, and you can't do that, and blah, 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 blah. But she is smarter than everybody.
Apparently. So, security guards escort her up to the office, but they call her My Lady, and I don't know if it's ever brought up again. But they call her My Lady.
Yeah, I think...
Which is...
Like, the person that escorted her around Hades' office also called her that, but it's because she's Hades.
Right.
But
so I don't know...
It is weird.
I don't know if these security guards are Hades security guards, or if... I don't know.
Yeah.
That's really my only assumption, because it never comes up again that...
Yeah.
Like, they don't know she's a goddess or anything like that.
Interesting.
But then it's weird because Helen starts offering to do a bunch of stuff for her, which is weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
So she's just like, thanks, Helen. Like, okay, bye. And she goes into her office, and she is apparently just waiting for Hades to slam in the office and get mad at her. And I'm like, that sure is the sign of a healthy relationship right there.
Right? Like... I can't.
Yeah. So I'm just like, how do you think that this is okay for your relationship? For you to just be waiting for someone to come in and get mad at you? Like, as if, like, you're a child and your parent are coming to get mad at you? Like, that's not what this is.
Yeah.
Anyway. Everyone is apparently bashing her on the news, saying that she's just looking for more fame and attention. And apparently she yeah. So in the article, she didn't use any current stories because she didn't want to talk about Sybil.
Mm-hmm.
So because she only used ancient stories, it means she has no current proof.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, he's changed. He's not like that anymore. But, like, she knows he is still like that, but she couldn't talk about any of the current proof that she has.
Yeah.
So, like, she doesn't really understand why people are attacking her now. Because apparently they didn't when she wrote about Hades. And it's like, come on.
Yeah. Everyone wanted to hate Hades.
Yeah.
You gave them a reason to.
Yeah. It's exactly what we just said. So, apparently, like, it's because Hades is supposed to be feared, but Apollo is the god of light, and he's not supposed to be an asshole. So Dimitri actually offers her some advice because they're getting a lot of hate. So he says, either find someone now who can confirm her story that he's still an asshole, or issue a public apology.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows that she can't ask Sybil to come forward and tell her story and expose Sybil to scrutiny.
Yeah. But
she also doesn't want to apologize either. So, like, I just can't with her.
Fair.
I just can't. Anyway, so she needs air, so she teleports to the roof.
NBD.
Yeah. I guess she's okay using her powers when she wants to.
Yeah.
So, the janitor that helped sneak her out last week, in the garbage bucket, Pirithous.
One of the two.
I don't know where to put the, like,
accent.
The yeah.
Emphasis,
yeah. I'm gonna say Pirithous. So he is up there, and she's like, oh, you're here. And he offers her some of his lunch. I guess he goes up there sometimes, to eat. But she doesn't want to eat, so she just sits with him. And I'm like, how long were you in your office doing nothing?
Yeah. Looking at news and spiraling.
Waiting for Hades to come in and get mad at you.
True.
So she sits with him. She doesn't take any of his food, but she offers to, like, sit with him and talk. So they talk a little bit, and she tells him that she broke a promise to Hades, and she can't take it back, and she's like, however, he also broke a promise to me, but he doesn't think he did anything wrong, but he did. And, like, that is hard. Like, when you did something that you know, or when you're mad at someone for doing something wrong, but they don't see how it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
But, I don't think that getting back at him by breaking a promise is the right answer.
No. Or gossiping with a janitor that you just met.
Yeah. Pirithous then tells her that men don't think.
Which is, like, the theme of this week. People are like, men are dumb. And we're like, that excuses everything. And I'm like,
yeah.
Does it? Because, that's not good enough.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's good enough either. So, he also tells her that if Hades wants her, he will work to understand her. So it's all on Hades. Hades has to do all the work. Persephone is perfect, just the way she is. She makes no mistakes.
She's done no wrong.
And, yeah.
Fair.
In this moment, though, she does realize that she overreacted. And, like, did she? Like, her breaking her promise, yes.
Yes.
But her being angry that he didn't tell her about, like, now I will say, her being like, you left me for her, I think that was stupid.
Yes.
But he definitely should have told her.
Yes. And he easily didn't have to go right that second. He could have been like, bring her to Nevernight, put her in a room, like, put her in my office for a bit. Like, he didn't have to leave her either. But he wasn't...
She also could have gone with him.
Yeah. But he wasn't, like, I don't think he was, like, making that choice because he, like, we know that he likes her more than... He kicked Laoki out of her house now because he's afraid of Persephone being mad about shit. So we're like, I don't know. It's just, ugh.
Yeah. But still, like, her being like, oh, I overreacted. No, sis, you didn't. Like, no. I do think he needs to apologize, but that doesn't, just because someone hurts your feelings, it doesn't give you the right to hurt their feelings back.
Yeah.
But she realizes that she wanted him to feel betrayed as she felt. Which
is not even true. She just wanted to write the story. She doesn't give a fuck. Like, this has nothing to do really with Hades or anything. She just wanted a reason to be able to write the story because that's all she cares about. Yeah.
But also then, too, like, I don't feel like that's something, like, if you love somebody, I don't understand why you would want them to feel hurt and betrayed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're still in a relationship with them. I can understand it if they, like, cheated on you and were an asshole and you're not with them anymore. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, those whole, like, jealous exes, not jealous, but, like, those whole vengeful exes who, like, scratch cars and, like, break tires and push out windows.
Break tires. Slash, maybe. It's fine.
Yeah. We could tell. I know a lot about doing those sorts of things. But, like, I kind of get that.
Yeah.
But if you are still in a relationship with someone and you still love them, I can't imagine wanting to hurt them.
It just shows how immature, naive, one of the things, like, I'm kind of over calling her naive, although she really did grow up in a shitty situation, so, like, it does kind of fit, but I'm like, she is so naive, but she doesn't think she is, and that's the biggest issue I find with her.
Yeah. Anyway, so Pirithous opens up that he was also with somebody, and he didn't work hard enough, and he tells her a little bit of his story. So apparently he used to gamble and bet on the Panhellenic Games, which is actually one of Apollo's, like, he's the patron saint, or patron god of the Panhellenic Games. And apparently he was good at gambling until he wasn't. And, I mean, isn't that always the case?
Yeah.
And his girl wanted him to stop, but he was more concerned with providing for her and protecting her. So she left him, and now she's married to someone else and expecting her first child. And he says it's bizarre to see someone live the life that could have been his. Mm-hmm. And she tells him she doesn't need Hades' protection. And he says everyone needs protection because life is hard. And, like, I get that. I feel like she has been overprotected her whole life, so she's trying to, like, shake off any form of protection. But, like, just because you can deal with something yourself doesn't mean you should. Yeah.
Also, she can't. This is the issue that we're getting into. She can't deal with it on her own.
No, you're right, but she thinks she can.
She just assumes she'll be able to figure it out, and you're like, when?
Just ask
and how. Yeah. Also,
like, literally,
who the fuck is this guy, and why are we getting his backstory? Like, it's like, I haven't read anything past this week, but, like, he has to be the admirer, doesn't he? Like, I don't understand why we're getting so much of his story if, like, I just don't.
This is a good piece of advice.
Yeah. But she has, like, I don't know, she has friends now.
But I guess, like, you gotta think of it this way. He is an objective third party, right? Like, her if she talks to her friends about it, they'll be on her side, because they're supposed to be on her side.
I don't know if Sybil's gonna be on her side.
Maybe not. She can't talk to Hades about it, because that's who she's talking about. Yeah. She can't talk to her mother about it, because her mother will be anti-Hades and try and kidnap her again. Yeah. Who else does she have to talk to? Like, she doesn't have anybody else. Yeah. So I feel like his character is being introduced as sort of, like, the objective third party.
Yeah, I guess. It just seems like out of left field.
Yeah, maybe.
To be getting his life story. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Anyway, so she goes home, and Sybil isn't mad at her. But she also knew that no one would believe her, and that's why she didn't want Persephone to write the story.
Fair.
So they're cool. She goes to run a bath, and as she's taking her clothes off, Hades appears.
What timing he has.
Yes. She's still mad at him, though, obviously, so she keeps taking her clothes off and undresses and gets in the bath anyway.
Fair.
And she tells him that he should have apologized to her about Laoki. Mm-hmm. But then he tells her she promised not to write about Apollo. And then he tells her that he thinks she wanted him mad because he made her mad. And she tells him it isn't all about him. But, like, she literally just said earlier she wanted to hurt him. Yeah. So, like, it is all about him right now. Yeah. He asks if her word is worth nothing. Fair. Which hurts her feelings. But, like, true question, sis. Like, you made a promise. Mm-hmm. And then you broke it. And, like, in all this conversation, she does, like, get back out of the bathtub and, like, wraps a towel around her. He then teleports her to the underworld and takes her power to teleport away, essentially kidnapping her and keeping her prisoner. Yep. Yeah.
This should go well.
Yeah. So he says, like, Apollo's going to want an audience with you, and he's not going to get one without me around. And Persephone is obviously really pissed at being kidnapped and tells him that she can handle it. But he just ignores her. And, like, she's all concerned with, like, I have a job. I have to go to work tomorrow. Because it's technically Monday. Or Tuesday. Tuesday at this point. But he's like, well, what odds? Like, yeah, that's fine.
What are they going to do? Fire you?
Yeah. So, because she's pissed, she sends, like, a burst of power, like, of black thorns towards him. But she's in his realm, so his magic is stronger and better, and he's older. So he just, like, waves his hand, and her thorns turn to ash. And he drops her off in the Queen's suite, which is not his room, which she realizes, shit, like, he's mad, bro. Really angry. Because normally she always sleeps in his room with him.
Mm-hmm. But this is just another, like, he's trying to give her space.
Yeah.
He thinks he's doing the right thing.
She also, like, realizes that the fact that he so easily overpowered her magic made her realize that, like, all the other times that she overpowered him with magic before, he was letting her.
Yeah.
Like, I think near the end of the last book, she shot her magic at him and tied him to the wall with her vines, and, like, he struggled to get out and couldn't. And she left him there. So she's realizing, shit, that whole time he could have turned the vines to ash with a thought, and he didn't, because he was trying to give her agency. So she realizes how powerful he is. And, like, he's just been placating her the whole time.
Which is shitty.
Yeah. As he's walking out the door, she tells him he'll regret this. You'll regret this!
Yeah.
But his response is that he already does. So I guess he knows that she's not going to be happy about being kidnapped, but he just wants to keep her safe and protect her.
Which is not cool.
No. In the name of protection, you should not
kidnap people.
Overpower someone and kidnap them.
Yeah.
So she spends her time walking through the gardens and sleeping. She wants Hades to remember, like, she sort of, like, she knows that he's, like, looking at her through a window, and so, like, she goes to the place where, like, they've had sex before, and she wants him to look at her, remember them, like, having sex, and want her, but not be able to have her, because she's mad. Yeah.
Let's punish him for punishing me, because that's a relationship, and it's healthy.
Yeah. But she says that, like, a part of her wants him to chase her, and, like, catch her, and, like, have sex. She wants to, like, have sex.
Mm-hmm.
But she also knows that, like, they're both hurt at what the other has done. So she knows they just need time.
Yeah.
And, like, I guess, true story. So her and Hecate have breakfast, and she asks if she knew about Laoki. And Hecate's like, I did, but I told Hades to tell you. And she asks Hecate to tell her about Laoki, and asks if Hades loved her. But Hecate says, not like he loves you, which is not comforting.
No.
At all.
I don't know what she expected, though. Like, you can't ask these questions. You're not gonna like any answers you get.
No.
Ever.
Nope. Hecate also brings up that, like, this whole situation reeks of Demeter, because, like, who else has the power to turn Laoki back from a tree?
Yeah.
Like, Hades' power did that. You would need the power of someone equally powerful to change her back.
Yeah. And it's, like, right in her wheelhouse of powers.
Like, change. Yes, yeah. And Persephone's, like, shocked, because she's like, I didn't think of my mother.
I don't think of anything.
Oh, God. And, like, she still doesn't understand why Hades didn't tell her. And then Hecate says, the first rule is all men are idiots.
Which is another Like, let's just
Another person
dismiss
saying it, yeah.
all men and say that whatever they do is fine because they're all just dumb. Like, what is this?
This is it. It's like it's a terrible rule, excusing men's bad behavior and not making them accountable for anything.
Because they're men.
Yeah.
That's like, what we're going with? That's our choice here? Good. That's...
Well, but so this is the thing. It's like, this whole... like, I think of, like, rape culture.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't his fault. You dangled yourself in front of him by wearing the clothes you wear. And it's like, no, let's not put it back on the woman, please. Yeah. Like, men should be responsible for their actions. And I feel like this ties into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, men are idiots. They can't be held responsible. They're dumb. No.
Yeah. Especially, they're all talking about this god who's been alive forever. It's not like he's, like, a teenager or, like... Not that anybody, obviously, should be shitty for any reason, but... I just hate it. I hate that we're excusing men's behavior because men are idiots. And that is just like, that's the moral. Men are dumb.
It's awful. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sorry, if men were actual idiots, women would be running the world right now.
No.
And they're not, unfortunately.
Yeah. It just really annoyed me to read it, especially twice, and be like, how are we just okay with saying men are dumb?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Like, I would hope we would be in a better place in society today.
Yeah.
Where this is not what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that whole, like, he's pulling your pigtails. He must like you.
Yeah.
No, let's not do that. Anyway, so Persephone comes to the conclusion that she's an idiot too. And Hecate tells her that they hurt each other and she should just go apologize. But she doesn't want to do that. So they go practice magic in an orchard instead. Hecate tries... Her first idea is to summon bees so she can practice magic under stress. But this just makes Persephone think of how powerless she is, like thinking back to, like, Hades just turning her vines to ash. Mm-hmm. So, like, Persephone is like, Hecate is like, this isn't a good idea. I'll get rid of the bees. So she does. So that whole moment was just completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
So then she targets a pomegranate tree and hits it with magic to, like, make the pomegranates grow. But they keep growing and growing and growing until they burst, creating a mess in the courtyard. So, obviously, that just, like, makes her sad again, because she's, like, so far, her powers are just, like, parlor tricks for other gods. Like, the things that she can do are nothing compared to what the other gods can do.
But you're like, she's only just learning. I don't understand why she's got to put so much pressure on herself right now, but fine. Also, now is the time to meditate and other shit like that. Now is not the time. Like, she's not going to be able to control her power. She can't even control her emotions.
Also, like, so in the last book, we learned that the reason why she didn't have her own magic was because she didn't have any worshippers. So Hades worshipped her.
Yeah.
But, like, she's not open to the public yet. So, like, she really still only has Hades, maybe a couple other people worship her. So, like, what makes her think her powers will be at the same extent of what the other gods are when they have, like, thousands and thousands of worshippers?
Yeah.
I don't know. She's, I think, thinking too highly of herself right now.
It just doesn't make any sense, because you're like, obviously, Hades is still the only person worshipping her.
Yeah. Maybe, like, Hecate and Hermes and, like, Lexa and Sybil.
Yeah. Maybe.
Anyway, they walk back to the castle together, and she asks why Hades hates Apollo. And Hecate tells her, like, it's not that he hates him. He just knows his past.
Like, that would have been good to have in the article.
Yeah. And then she tells... Hecate tells her a story about Apollo, like, just to explain the type of person he is, she was like, so Apollo and his sister, Artemis, killed 14 children because their mother said she was better than Apollo's mother, Leto. So, I don't really know why we bring this story up.
No.
But Hecate says, like, by keeping Persephone in the underworld and making Apollo seek an audience here, anything that he does would be considered an act against Hades as well.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, like, Hades is protecting her by keeping her here. And it's like, we already knew that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Later on, Hecate tells her, oh, I ordered you another crown, and they start talking about her outfit for the solstice party that the souls are planning, and then Persephone just goes back to her suite, and, like, she's annoyed with how far it is from Hades' room. And she thinks, who puts their wife in a whole other part of the palace? But then she's like, shit, I'm not his wife, I'm just his girlfriend. And it's like, oh my god, make up your mind, bitch!
I'm just his lover.
Like, you don't want to be his queen.
Yeah.
But yet you call yourself his wife. Like, I just,
She doesn't know what she wants.
She's too contradictory and I hate it.
Yeah.
Anyway. She goes for a walk. And she leaves a trail of flowers behind her with her magic. I don't know. And she finds a cliff with a gray sea.
And you're like, is she gonna jump off? What is happening?
I know, yes! I was like, oh god, bitch, what are you doing?
Yeah. Like, I didn't really think that's where this was going.
Yeah.
Can you die in the underworld?
I'm assuming you can.
Yeah. Like, she almost drowned. So,
Yeah.
like, she would have died then. Dunno.
Yeah. So, as she's, like, looking out at this gray, turbulent sea, she's, like, introspective and thinking and deep and whatever. I think she, like, I don't know if she tries to meditate, but I don't know. A rose ends up sprouting out of her arm, and she has to pull it free. And she says it hurts so bad she, like, screamed. And, like, after she plucked it, blood comes, like, pouring out. So she has to wrap it with, like, she has to tear a piece of her dress off and, like, wrap her arm. Which, like, girl, you should see a doctor about that.
Yeah, normal shit.
Yeah. So it starts getting dark, so she goes to turn back, but her flower path is gone. And the whole place looks a bit different. It doesn't look exactly the way it did when she arrived. So she just walks, and she just keeps walking for a while. Because Hades took her power to teleport, she can't just go back to the castle.
Yeah. I don't really understand the point of this part of the book.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, she walks for a while, but she gets lost, so she just sits under a tree and falls asleep. And so, like, I do think that this moment is sort of meant to bridge the gap between them for the moment. Right? Her and Hades.
I know, but she still wakes up alone, doesn't she?
Yeah, but I guess, like, this is how they, like, I don't know. I feel like this is how his fear overcomes his anger.
I guess.
Maybe. So, she falls asleep under a tree, and then she smells Hades and feels him carry her back to the palace. But she couldn't open her eyes because she was so tired.
Which, that kind of makes me wonder, like, was this an attack? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. I don't
get it.
Wonder. I know, because, like, where did she go? How did she get there? How did she get lost? Like, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So she wakes up in Hades' room, and
Fair.
Hermes is there. Yeah, so that's nice.
Oh, she can't talk about another man in his bed, but another man can be there. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he asks what she remembers, and he said that, like, Hades was freaking out because he couldn't sense her anywhere, and he summoned all of the deities to find her.
Which is interesting that he couldn't sense her, too. Like, it feels like there should be
it
something
seems
more
like
to
there was
this.
something going on, yeah. But they just, like, I feel like they just forget it. And, like, are like, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
She fine.
So, apparently he was, like, freaking out, thinking the worst, like, thinking that, like, Apollo got to her or something like that.
Which is fair. Shouldn't he be able to sense things in his kingdom, you'd think? So, like, I get why he...
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, she's just like, no, man, like, I went for a walk and I meditated and I got lost.
Normal shit.
Yeah. And Hermes told her that Hades wasn't going to let her out of his sight. And Hermes is essentially babysitting because Apollo is here.
It's one of those, like, Hagrid moments of, like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I should not have told you that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's like, what? Apollo is here? They shouldn't be meeting without me. So she races out of the room and finds the two of them meeting in the throne room. And when she gets there, Apollo tells her that Hades and him they've already struck a deal, and he won't hurt her for a favor from Hades in the future. And the favor can be anything. And
seems dumb.
Yeah. But I guess that's what it took.
Yep.
So she tells him that the deal should be made with her since it's her problem. And she also tells him that he needs to return Sybil's power, or she will get stories from current lovers and tear him to the ground. Because, like, I do think that was an asshole thing to do, like, to take her power.
Oh,
like,
100%. Yes.
That was not his power to take. Like, she was born with that power, and she went through school to do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, I do think that was an asshole thing of him to do, and 100%. I do like that she's bargaining for this.
Yeah.
So he does agree to return Sybil's power, but tells her that if she writes another word about him, he will destroy everything she loves, and that with Hades' favor, he could actually use it to keep them apart. But he's not. So he's like, think about that. Like, I'm being nice. And Hades is, like, furious with Apollo and tells him that if Persephone comes to any harm in any way, he will bury him and everything he loves. And Apollo says, it'll only be me because everything I love no longer exists.
Which is just such a classic line. Like, I almost can't be mad at it because it's one of those, there's nothing left that I love lines. And you're like, fine. Yeah.
I will say, though, that it does, like, I think it helps us humanize Apollo a little bit and be like, oh, like, he has shit going on.
Yes, yeah, I'll agree to that.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And, like, I don't even think he's the villain at the moment. Like, she... Other than taking away someone's power because they didn't want to sleep with you is just stupid.
Skeezy.
Yeah, I do hate that. But I'm also like, I don't know. I'm like... Everybody's bad.
Yeah. People have duality. It's like our favorite. It's our favorite line.
I don't believe it.
People are complicated.
It's true.
Anyway,
you make a good point.
I do. Yes. So Apollo leaves and Persephone, like, lays into Hades. And she makes a good point here. She tells him, like, this was your first opportunity to treat me as your queen, and you leave me out instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then she turns his words back on him. Does your word mean nothing? Which is what he said to her earlier in the bath right before he kidnapped her. So she says, does your word mean nothing? Because he tells her, like, you are my queen in all but name, right? Like,
yeah.
The only thing missing is the fact that we're not married, so you're not officially queen. But, like, you are. And she's like, but you're not treating me like it.
But is this how she would be treated as queen if she becomes queen is the other thing.
Maybe.
Like, yeah.
Could be. Anyway, so then she just walks out with Hermes and spends the rest of the afternoon with Hecate and Hermes on a picnic. So, like, doesn't even let him try and
answer.
Like, yeah. So, she goes after spending time with Hermes and Hecate. She goes to a nice quiet grove and starts practicing her magic. and she smells Hades near her. And he actually helps her take control of her magic by coaching her into creating, like, a carpet of phlox, which is like a flower. And he says, like, magic takes a little control and a little passion. So, like, he, like, feels her up a little bit in order to get her to, like... So, you know, that old, like, oh, here, let me help you. Let me show you.
Yeah. Like a pool and hold it behind them.
Yeah, the pool cue. Yeah, the pool cue thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It is just like that. Just with magic.
Yeah.
Which... part of me wishes that she didn't need Hades for everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I wish she could have learned how to control her magic with Hecate instead.
Which I 100% think she could have if we gave her the opportunity, but the only time she ever practices her magic is when she's, like, in a mood.
Yeah. Because, like, I don't know, this is just too damsel-y in distressy.
Yeah. Which,
like, she needs him for everything, even though she doesn't want him for everything.
Yeah. But I almost feel like her whole story becomes damsel in distressly. It's a verb now.
Yeah. Yes, damsel in distressly. Anyway, so after she, like, is like, oh my god, I did it. They talk
all by myself.
And they do mend their relationship. Their relationship with each other. They agree that sometimes they may be angry with each other, but sometimes they just need a little time to heal from the hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And she sort of says, like, she just feels so inexperienced. Yes. You've literally been out on your own for like 4 years.
She's a child.
She is a child. He is 2000. No, he is like ancient.
Yeah.
God only knows how old he is.
Yeah. Gross.
And she says, like, she doesn't understand how she was meant for him. Because she's rash, and she's young, and inexperienced, and whatever. And how can he want her? So, like, really, she's just, it's her own insecurities, and she's just freaking out.
Yeah.
So, he tells her not to doubt herself. He wants her. So she gets turned on, and they start to get hot and heavy, and she pushes him down and takes control, gives him a BJ, and of course it's the best one of his life, like, knows exactly what to do. So obviously he comes, and she swallows, because why not? For once, I just like to see a girl spit.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I just like to see it once, like, all over, like, take it and then go,
especially
all back over him.
Especially if she's, like, a virgin, basically. Like, it would just be funny.
Yeah, it'd be like, ew, this is gross.
What was that?
So she swallows, and then they immediately continue having sex. Like, again, he needs no rest time.
No.
Later, she, like, I guess later when they're in bed, she tells him that she wants to mentor Laoki because she knows how it feels to be dropped into, like, a world, like, inexperienced and, like, unfamiliar, right?
Wild.
Sort of the same thing when her mom let her out of the greenhouse. Like,
yeah,
she didn't know anything.
I get what she's saying, but this is wild.
But still ridiculous.
Yes.
Like, this person that came between us for days and caused me to, like, stab you in the back. I think I want to be her friend now.
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, they have sex again.
For sure. He's a god.
Why not? And then she tells him that she doesn't want a suite on the other side of the house, like, ever. Even though he thought he was giving her space, she doesn't like it. So he's like, okay,
which is, like, great. Communication, love it. Good job.
Yes, finally. Anyway, long time later. Woo! She asks Hecate to help her summon her mother in a safe way.
I don't understand anything, really. I don't know why I keep saying that, but I know. I'm confused.
So they actually go back to Persephone's apartment. She has not, like, she's no longer kidnapped.
But, so wait, something else happens for, no, that's later, never mind. But, she goes back to her bedroom, which she's allegedly, like, given to Sybil, really.
Yes, yeah.
But, like, she's not worried about Sybil being there. She's like, this is my room, close the door, call me.
I know, it's this whole, like, I don't know, man. Everybody staying in her house is weird.
It's so weird. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And, like, it's not just Sybil is couch surfing for a bit. She moved all her shit into their house. So, like, I don't know.
I don't get it.
Anyway, so Hecate, like, completes the ritual. All Persephone has to do when she wants to stop talking to her mother is to, like, blow out a candle or something. So she leaves Demeter and Persephone alone to talk in Persephone's apartment. So Demeter asks if Persephone is summoned her to ask for forgiveness. And Persephone's like, stop interfering in my life. And Demeter's trying to be like, I don't understand what you want. I gave you everything. And she's like, what you gave me wasn't enough. And, like, the fact that Demeter thought she could challenge the fates was really arrogant. Because that's why she hid Persephone in the greenhouse. Because she knew that Persephone was going to marry Hades and become queen of the underworld. And she was trying to stop that from happening. And thought that made her arrogant. And
it's just ironic, too, because it's one of those situations of, like, if she didn't do that, maybe she never even would have met Hades. Like, obviously...
Yeah. It's, yeah.
Obviously, if it's the fates, she still would have, but it's just one of those fun things, like, books like this, and, like Oedipus is a classic example of you're like, oh no, the prophecy says this, let's send him away, and then he comes back, and... Yeah.
Yeah. Oedipus Rex, it's really good if anyone hasn't read it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is good. It's like one of the only ones that I liked from high school when I read it.
Did you read Antigone too?
I don't remember.
Because I really liked Antigone, because that's about his daughter. Yeah.
I'll write it down.
Anyway, so I guess because she's a goddess, Demeter couldn't name her. The fates gave her the name Persephone.
Which is interesting.
I like it.
I do too, yeah.
I wonder if that's, like, actual Greek mythology. Like,
I don't know.
Is that the mythos? But apparently her name means destroyer of happiness, of dreams, and of lives, is what Demeter says. Like, your name means destroyer, and you're destroying, this is what you're destroying.
I love it.
Yeah, I know. It's very nice of your mother to say that. And then she calls Persephone a disgrace.
Of course.
Yeah. So Persephone, like, just extinguishes the candle and her mother disappears.
So, I don't understand. She summoned her. And she's like, so I can get rid of her. Cool, great. Why can't her mom just go to her apartment like she did the whole first book?
That's a good question. Do we think that maybe she put, like, Hades put some sort of words
Maybe,
up?
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not really mentioned. No. I also feel like because her mom and her got into that fight, like, I guess maybe the mom is like, I don't want to
see her. But she could have also, like, Demeter could have not answered the summons, it seemed like. The way I read it, it seemed like she could not answer if she didn't want to. But I don't know for sure that that's true either, but it'd be weird if you could just summon a god and then stick them in this thing until... Like, obviously, like, demon summoning and, like, then having a devil trap to trap them. Like, it'd be weird if you could just trap a god. Like, wouldn't you just do that with any god? I'd trap Apollo and be like, give Sybil back her powers, bitch.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, I guess she could choose to not.
Unless this is just something that, like, a lot of people don't know you can do. Who knows? Anyway, not the point, really.
Anyway. So... Her friends come in to try and ask if she's okay, and by her friends, I mean Laoki and Sybil.
Yeah.
And she tells Laoki the good news that Hades is going to give her all of her stuff back, and Persephone is going to mentor her. And it's like, did she ask for a mentor, bitch? Like, get off your high horse.
How presumptuous.
Like, say you're going say you're gonna help, like, I'm gonna help you navigate this
Yeah.
world. Great. But I'm gonna mentor you.
But even if she was like,
eh.
if you want me to help you, I can. But to be so presumptuous to be, I'm going to help you because you fucking need it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're so sweet and innocent and a little, like, naive, like, person in this big world.
Yeah.
So I'll do it for you. I'll help you.
I'm so much better than you.
It's like, yeah, it's awful. Anyway, then she tells Laoki that she is a goddess and that she has to keep that secret. Don't tell.
Why?
I don't know.
Plot. I don't even know the point of it, but I'm assuming it's plot.
And then, like, Laoki is, like, afraid of Demeter, like, that, because I guess Persephone says, like, my mom is Demeter, I know she changed you from a tree to a person again, and Laoki's like, oh, I don't remember who did that, but then she's also, like, afraid that Demeter will come and turn her back into a tree.
Why? Why not, I guess, but, like, even if she did, Persephone's, like, mentoring her now, so wouldn't Persephone turn her back?
Well, I mean, she does know she can turn things into
She'd
plants.
probably...
You would think she'd be able to turn a plant.
She'd explode her.
Back to it. Anyway, so Persephone offers to protect her.
How? You can't even protect yourself.
What? What? Anyway, so Hades used a form of magic so that her time in the underworld didn't pass in the upper world. So, like, all that time she was down there, nobody noticed she was missing. Like, no time passed. She didn't miss any work. Nothing bad happened.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Like, of course, he can alter time, the time paradox, and it's fine. So, she goes to work the next day because she should. And apparently now, so, like, now, like, a day has passed, the article came out, she didn't release anything else, but now instead of haters at the front, there are fans. Oh, but there are also Apollo lovers there, so, like, there's a mix of both. So there are some fans there, and she signs autographs, so, like, she's okay with it now. Last week she didn't want to, because she was at lunch, but this week it's fine. Yeah. Like, oh, she's exhausted.
But it's also, I think her thing of it would be like, this is because of who she is and what she wrote. It's not because of Hades. Which is exhausting.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. One of the Apollo lovers throws a bottle at her, trying to hurt her.
At least it's just a bottle, but it's just kind of like...
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those things of hurting her for hurt's sake. You know what I mean? Like what we talked about with, like, Blood and Ash. How, like, seems like she just keeps getting hurt just for the sake of we need her to get hurt. That's what it seems like. Anyway. So she goes up to her office and she gets a phone call and she thinks it's Hades, like, because I guess it was, like, on the news or something, like, her signing the autographs and showing up to work. It was, like, on a broadcast or, like, and it showed her getting hit by the bottle. So she's like, oh, it's Hades checking to see if I'm okay. And she's all ready to be like, don't kill that person, Hades. Yeah. She's all ready to, like, be like, don't you kill them. But when she answers the phone, it's not Hades, it's Jason, Lexa's boyfriend.
Who I don't think we've heard by name yet this book. I realized he was in the last book, but I completely forgot about him until this point.
But also, their relationship got hot and heavy real fast.
Especially with the way he acts.
I digress.
In this book. This week, I mean. Because, like I said, I haven't read past this week. But some of the things he says this week, I'm like, Jesus.
Dick. Yeah, he's a dick. Anyway, so he calls her and says she needs to get to the hospital. Lexa is hurt. And she isn't sure that she'll make it. Or, sorry, they aren't sure she's going to make it, like the hospital, the doctors. And all Persephone can think of is this the start of Apollo's revenge?
Could easily be.
Dun, dun,
We had just talked about how he has nobody left he cares about, so...
Yep, and she obviously does.
Dumb to love people. Ugh. So, Lexa was hit by a car crossing the road in front of the Alexandria Tower. Persephone obviously immediately goes to the hospital and meets Jason there. Lexa is currently in surgery, and Persephone can only think about how this is, like, her fault, because she assumes it's Apollo. And she does comfort Jason, and she, like, is praying, basically, because they can't lose her. They end up waiting for hours. And after waiting for a few hours, Persephone calls Sybil. You're like, cool, let's just not tell her until hours later.
But, like, also, they're not, like, they just became friends.
Listen, when you're in your early 20s, college days, you can make friends fast. I forgive it. Like, if she lives with them now, they're gonna be friends fine. But it just seems weird that you're like, we waited for hours, and then I thought to call the other person that lives with us. And you're like, oh, okay. So anyway, Sybil basically shows up immediately. And at one point, Jason goes out to meet Lexa's parents because they've just showed up. And Persephone asks Sybil if her powers came back. And she says that they did. So Persephone obviously asks her if Lexa will live, but she says she can't see her friend's fates, which is important to note for later this week. That she says she can't see her friend's fates. Cool. Even though she already told Persephone that her and Hades are intertwined. Whatever.
Well, I guess seeing their auras is different than seeing their fates.
I guess.
She said she could see their auras, and their auras are all mixed together.
Yeah. Persephone asks Sybil if she thinks this could have been Apollo, but Sybil really doesn't think it was. She thinks it was just a mortal accident. Like, obviously this is just her opinion as a person. It's not like an oracle opinion, but it is interesting. But Sybil says that she should talk to Hades because obviously he's the god of the dead. And, like, she doesn't try to get in touch with him at any point while she's waiting at the hospital. Like, I would immediately call my boyfriend and be like, I'm at the hospital, my best friend is hurt, get your ass here and comfort me while I wait.
Yes!
Even if he's not the god of the dead. Like, their relationship, the end. Anyway, the doctors come out and say that she has 2 broken legs, a broken elbow, lacerations to her kidneys, bruised lungs, and blood on her brain. So she's currently in critical condition, and she's in a coma.
But, like, just to be fair, the broken bones mean absolutely nothing to her state. Like, broken bones are minor. Like, who cares about the broken legs and the broken elbow? Like, big fucking deal. I think we should care more. And bruised lungs. Like, big fucking deal. They're bruised. Like, I think the lacerations... How do you get lacerations to your kidneys?
Yeah, how did she not break any ribs, but bruised her lungs?
Yeah. Yes. But think about what a laceration is. Like, they call lacerations, like, when you're sliced, right? To me, a laceration is a slice. How did her kidneys get sliced with a blunt instrument?
I guess, like, if the windshield smashed, the, like, glass could, maybe? But, like, windshields aren't supposed to smash like that. So, I don't know.
No. I think this was...
Just say words.
I don't think this was a consulted medical diagnosis. No. I don't think it was like, let me research what typically happens to your body when you get hit by
like
a car.
2 broken legs? Makes sense. Swipe them at the legs.
Sweep the leg. Sweep
exactly.
the leg.
Yeah. So, I guess my question is, what were they doing surgery on? Because, like, obviously, broken legs and stuff, like, 100%, if it's really bad, you'll have to go into surgery right away. But if you're unconscious and they're afraid you're going to die, they will not put you in, like, that kind of surgery because they're worried about more important things, like you waking up.
Yeah.
So I guess, brain
like,
surgery?
The blood on... But, yeah, maybe, like... But, like, the blood on the brain thing, like, when you have a brain injury... Now, my reason my expertise in this is limited to procedural
dramas.
Procedural dramas. But everything that I've seen, if you have trauma on the brain and blood in your brain, all they want to do is wait and see if it calms down, right? Yeah, you gotta wait and see. It's like, that's all you can do. So, like, I agree with you. What was the surgery for? Her kidneys?
But, like, why would you do a surgery
when she's got blood on her brain?
You're obviously not going to give an unconscious person anesthesia because they could easily die while under. So if you're going to do a surgery, you'd obviously have to, like, if you're going to cut someone open, you don't want them to wake up from a coma halfway through. So I don't understand. Anyway, we never find out, I don't think, unless that comes up later. But I don't know yet why she had surgery. I digress. So yeah, she goes in to see Lexa and holds her hand, but Lexa obviously doesn't look like herself because she is in a coma and she looks sickly and small and in a bed.
Bruised and battered, like she was hit by a car.
So she ends up leaving after a bit, and Sybil asks if she's gonna ask Hades to save her, and she says she'll do what she can. So Persephone teleports to an alley near Nevernight and rushes inside, and she's like banging into people in the club and stuff, and she's just trying to get to Hades' office to see him. He like meets her at the door and holds her, and he can tell that she's upset, and she asks for help and then starts sobbing. But then she notices a man tied up in Hades' office, and it is the man who threw the bottle at her.
Which I really like,
just find it funny. Because, like, he has no idea what else has gone on today. He's just like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of this guy.
She didn't have his phone number!
It's everyone's fault. So she begs Hades not to hurt him and to, like, let him go. And he just sends him away. And I'm like, he's tied to a chair. Does he just disappear the whole thing and, like, put it in the in-between?
Yeah, I think so. Like, can you imagine if he just, like, snapped his fingers and just sent him down to the dance floor? And, like, he shows up in the dance floor, like all tied up to a chair.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But Persephone kind of thinks, like, she should check in on this later, because she doesn't trust that he's, like, actually let him go.
Letting him go.
I don't know if she ever checks back up on it, but not this week. He asks her what happened, and she's kind of too overwhelmed to talk, so he goes and gets her some wine, and she has a glass of it, and then she can finally talk to him. And obviously she tells him about Lexa, and as she's explaining, his face, like, he's kind of shutting down his emotions, and she can tell that, like, he looks very indifferent, and the longer she talks, she knows that he's about to say no. But she pleads because she can't lose Lexa, but he says she's not dead. She's in limbo. It's like, it's up to her soul to, like, want to live, basically. So, like, Hades can't really do anything. She's still alive. But she says she knows he has bargained with the fates before to save somebody in limbo. But from my understanding of what they were saying, it would be a soul for a soul. So somebody would have to give up their life. Because in that situation she's talking about last book, I think it was like a little kid was sick and the mother was begging, and then the mother took the kid's place, basically.
Is that what happened? I don't.
But that's kind of what I assumed while reading this part, but I don't know. I don't know if that's actually true. I kind of got confused and was like, but anyway, I should have probably read it better, but I don't really know. From my understanding, I thought that somebody had to die, but anyway, she could still be fine. She kind of just needs to get through this type thing. Anyway, Hades says if she actually cares for him and Lexa, she should drop it. And you're like, you can't just expect her to stop asking you for this. Like, she's seen you do it before.
Yeah.
And she says she's doing this for Lexa, and he asks if she's trying to save Lexa or herself. Which is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like backhanded. Like, obviously, she will be destroyed if she loses Lexa. Like, that's not surprising. But he tells her she needs a reality check, and he undoes his shirt. And for once, it's not sex. But she can see, like, a bunch of black lines all over his body that are from bargains he's made with the fates. And he says that they're, like, life threads. So I guess when he changes fate, he ends up marked. But she...
Which is such a sin.
Yeah. She kind of doesn't really empathize or anything. She just says, what good is it to be the god of the dead if he can't do anything? And, like, she immediately realizes that that was a shitty thing to say and says she didn't mean it, but, like, he knows that she did. It's obviously a hard situation, but this conversation's not going well. He tells her he understands that she doesn't want to believe there's nothing that he can do, but again, he says Lexa isn't gone yet. She may recover. But Persephone obviously wants, like, certainty. She wants to know for sure that she's going to be fine. Which is fair.
Yeah.
She's obviously exhausted because it's been a long day and a stressful day. So Hades takes her to the underworld to get some sleep. The next morning, she wakes up, and everything just hits her super hard. Hecate comes to bring her breakfast, but she feels nauseous and she can't eat. So she asks Hecate to, like, sit with her. No, not that. Hecate asks Persephone to sit with her, but she says she needs to get to the hospital. And she's in the underworld at the moment, but she looks at her phone and she doesn't have any texts from Jason or Lexa's parents. But earlier this book, you couldn't get texts when you were in the underworld. So I don't understand.
Yes. Well, that is an anachronism, I think. That was I think this is a mistake, a contradiction in the writing, which is problematic.
So anyway, she assumes nothing bad has happened because obviously she hasn't heard from anybody. Hecate tries to convince her to eat, but she refuses. She asks where Hades is, and she thinks, like, he spent the night with her because she was obviously distressed and having trouble sleeping and all that. But he disappeared this morning before she woke up. She does have coffee and tells Hecate to tell Hades that she had breakfast, even though it is a lie.
Yes, let's start our newly mended relationship with a lie. Amazing.
Good. I thought that there was going to be something more to this, like her, like, being weak because she didn't eat breakfast or anything, but, like, it's just, and I get when people are stressed, they find it hard to eat or they eat more. Like, everybody is affected differently. I just think, like, this book kind of glorifies the fact that she doesn't eat. I kind of find that has happened. Not just this book. I think it was actually more so the first book that did it. And I just find it, like,
problematic.
I do find it problematic.
Like, how about instead of us not eating when we're sad, let's eat our feelings.
That's not problematic at all. And I get the point is that it is problematic. I just think it's hard when all the representation of people you see when they're upset is that they stop eating, and then when you go through a trauma, that is not your experience, and you're like, I'm broken because all I do is eat and drink. Like, that can be normal. Not normal, but that can be a reaction as well. Anyway, that's just a hill that I stand on. So Persephone is on her way to the hospital. She goes up, I guess, through Nevernight and goes out on the streets to walk to the hospital. And somebody yells out to her, so she starts speeding up. But then other people start to recognize her. And, like, someone steps in front of her and asks for a picture. And she basically, like, gets mobbed and is yelling at people as they yell at her. And she's, like, trying to run away. And it's, like, pretty awful. She goes down an alleyway and someone grabs her shoulder. So she turns and punches them square in the face. But it's Hermes. Like, what a sin.
I do too. So much.
So he teleports her to the rooftop of the hospital. And she kind of just complains about how she can't go anywhere. And he tells her that she's going to have to start realizing that her life has changed and she's going to need to start acting like a goddess. And she does not like that. She doesn't like hearing that. So she snaps at Hermes. And he just says, like, if she needs a ride, to let him know, and he leaves. And you're like, what a good friend. Because I would have bitched at her back.
Yeah.
She then calls Dimitri, who asks how her friend is, obviously, because he knows she left yesterday. And she says, not good. And he says, take all the time you need. But then she says she needs an extension on her expose, and he says he'll see what he can do, but he can't make any promises. I'm like, what do you mean? You just told her to take all the time she needs, but you need her to write this by the end of the week? I don't understand.
Yeah. And technically it's like Wednesday or Thursday. Does she not need this in by tomorrow?
Well, I don't know why they told us Friday at the beginning of the book, because it's already been a Friday and almost a Friday again. Like, I just...
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, I get that... I almost feel like her job shouldn't be set hours anyway, because, like, the other night she stayed up all night working, and then she went to work the next day, and you're like, shit, like, if you're gonna work at night,
sleep.
You should be able to not work the next day. Like, especially if you're gonna publish articles and shit, like and edit them yourself and stuff. Like, it's just, she works too much. And also not enough. It's like...
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Just... There are too many inconsistencies in this book for me to be okay with. And maybe the regular reader can look past these, but I'm too much of a... I overanalyze things too much.
Yeah.
To let it go.
Well, that's kind of what we're doing every week. So it kind of makes it hard to not do it.
I know, but even without, like, us doing this,
when you read a new book,
the reason why we enjoy doing this so much
it's what we do anyway.
At least for me, I do it anyway. Yeah.
So then she says that if he wants her as an employee, he won't push her on this. So he says he'll deal with it and take care of herself and her friend. But you're like, you can't put back on him what he's already threatened you with. Like, you're gonna quit if he doesn't let you have an extension, but if you don't get it in, he's gonna fire you. So, like, that's not a threat.
Yeah, and, like, she's mad at him. Like, what? Like,
I get, like, it didn't make sense what he said. Like, take all the time you need, but I'm not giving you extension on this. Like, that just doesn't make any sense, and I think it's dumb.
No.
But she is so mad at him all the time. I'm like, he's still your boss. She just...
Yeah.
She wants to act normal, but she's acting like a goddess.
She wants to be treated special in a normal world.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So she goes in to see Lexa, and her vitals have improved, but they're worried about her brain since she had brain contusions. So they won't know if she's okay until/if she wakes up. Which is unfortunate, obviously. So Persephone just sits and pulls out her laptop, and she can't stop thinking about her conversation with Hermes. She doesn't know how she can act like a goddess. She's worked so hard to have a normal mortal life.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, Jan. She sees other people come forward, like on her computer, she sees that a bunch of other people have come forward about Apollo, accusing him of being shitty. And he hasn't made any statements yet, and she thinks it's likely because he doesn't have an oracle at the moment, so it's hard to make a statement, which is just kind of funny.
Why does he need an oracle to make a statement?
I guess they'd know something about the future and the best thing to say. Yeah.
Oh, smart.
She notices vines sprouting in the windowsill behind her and starts pulling them down. I'm like, cool. Then Jason comes over and asks if she's all right, but he looks super tired, and he actually hasn't left the hospital, and he refuses to leave just in case, which, like, makes sense, but is a long time to be in the hospital. He asks her if Hades is going to help, and she says Lexa isn't gone yet, so he can't do anything. But he doesn't believe that, and says he's the god of the dead, not the living, so he would probably want to gain a resident, and so he probably wants her to die. You're like, that's shitty.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't know him, and he doesn't know anything about the underworld.
Yeah,
so, like,
dude. He's he is the god of the dead, not the living. So how is he supposed to bring someone back from the dead when they're not dead? Like, his own logic isn't making sense.
Correct. But also, like, the fact that he is so, like, he's, like, staying at the hospital constantly, like, it's just weird after they've been together for a month. It just, like, I don't know, it's just, their relationship is a lot more serious than
I thought it was.
You would
especially since we didn't hear about him the entire beginning of this book. I forgot he existed, honestly.
Yeah. Like, she met him one night, and then all of a sudden she's practically living in his house.
Yeah.
Like,
and I didn't even realize that, because she was just making fun of how Persephone's gone all the time. She wasn't saying, I'm at Jason's house all the time. Like, there should have been a mention of him earlier in the book. Like, I'm at Jason's house all the time, so you can either sleep in my room or Persephone's based on who's in the house. Cool.
Yeah.
But no. So Persephone kind of tries to explain to him about the fates, but he doesn't believe it, and he says Hades isn't doing anything when she needs him most. But then she starts to think that it's not actually her that needs Hades, it's Lexa, and that is why he isn't doing anything. Because, like, if this was Persephone who was hurt, he would obviously do something. Which I think is true, but I also don't think that you can, like... He said it in the last book, like, he can't help everybody. And it's shitty that he's not helping her now, but also, Lexa could still be okay. So I do understand both sides of it. It's like, it is shitty, though.
But also, remember when we had this whole conversation last week about how, like, they are convinced that, oh no, it's not nepotism to get Lexa a job at Hades Corporation or to get Sybil a job at this corporation. It's totally based on the fact that they're good at their jobs. It has nothing to do with nepotism. And now she's like, oh, I know Hades, so I should get special treatment. And he should save my friend. Like, why? Why should he save your friend over any other friend? Like, she's just being, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. It absolutely sucks that your friend is dying. But why should she be saved?
It's just like, he's not even really saying he'll never help. He's saying we need to wait and see what happens. Like, he's kind of, like, that's kind of how I read Hades speaking to her or whatever. But anyway, Jason kind of realizes that he's being a dick and apologizes, but she's already thinking that Hades can't love her if he's fine with how she's suffering at the moment.
Ugh.
Like, why can't she do something? She's a goddess, too.
Yeah.
Anyway. Persephone goes to meet Laoki at a private boutique owned by Aphrodite, and, like, they've closed it down. They're going in and buying clothes for Laoki at this super pricey place. Cool.
Wild. Like, when did they plan this?
At their house, I guess, because they live together now. So, Persephone goes inside the boutique, and she says Lexa would love this, and Aphrodite herself responds, I'm sure she would. And Persephone's like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing here? Because I think last time they met, they were like, Persephone was a bitch to her in the first book.
Aphrodite was a bitch, too.
Yes. I don't really remember what happened, but... Oh yeah, Aphrodite told her after. But the first time that they met, she was a bitch to Aphrodite for, like, no reason. But anyway, that's all I really remember. But then obviously Aphrodite came out, and she's the one that made the deal. A la that movie with the girl.
Right. Yeah, she's all that.
Who wears glasses and overalls and therefore ugly.
Yeah. She's the one who made the bet with Hades.
So, like, we could be mad at her now, I guess. I don't know. Who knows what's happening.
Yeah.
But Aphrodite says she came to check up on her, and she can smell that her sex life is vibrant.
I would hate for someone to be able to do that.
I hate it a lot.
It's like the equivalent of, like, being, like, in all those books that we read where they can smell your arousal.
But this is, like, is she the only person that can tell? Because
I would say, because she's the goddess of love.
That sucks. Can you imagine? Because she's alone, isn't she? Like, she's like, you and everybody around you can tell. That'd be sad. Yeah. So Persephone then asks how Aphrodite is, and she's, like, shocked that anybody would ask her that. Just Ugh. And she answers that she doesn't know, and Persephone can feel her pain and offers to be there to talk if Aphrodite wants to. And Aphrodite's just like, no. But then she does say thank you. But it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just interesting and weird.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, I don't know. It's just, we would expect some antagonistic behavior between the two.
Which I guess
but instead,
is the same thing with, like, the whole Laoki situation. We were like, we expected.
Yeah. Persephone can forgive every single person except for Hades. She's the most forgiving person on the planet, apparently.
But it's another moment where she actually, like, feels someone's emotion, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it was earlier this week during one of the crowds, she can, like, feel some emotions in the crowd, and it was kind of like a throwaway line that I was like, is she actually, like, magic feeling, or is it just like the crowd is, like, angry and she feels it? But I guess something's gonna happen with her power. I don't know. So Laoki shows up and Aphrodite disappears. They get some champagne, and Laoki's, like, super pumped because this is super cool to be in, like, a high-end boutique looking at clothes
and get to just buy everything.
So she's grabbing everything to try on, but Persephone just wants to drink because she's thinking of Lexa.
Of course.
Which, like, I get, but maybe now's not the best time to take out your new best friend to go on a shopping spree.
Yes.
Like, tell her sorry, but this is bad timing. Jason calls her then and says that Lexa just came out of surgery and she didn't even know that she was having surgery, and he says he didn't tell her because she freaks out and makes everything worse. When? How?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, this is coming out of, like, not even left field. This is, like, coming, like, out of the parking lot. Like, where is this coming from? Like, we haven't even seen them, like, hang out once. Like, has she even met him before?
I just don't understand. It's wild. And Persephone's also like, what the fuck? But he does tell her that apparently Lexa had internal bleeding, but they caught it just in time. So, like, she's still unconscious, but she's not dead. I guess is the best thing you can say about that. Persephone can't really get over him saying she makes everything worse, and says Lexa is her best friend, and he responds, she's my girlfriend, and hangs up on her. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Who is this guy?
I, like, shock. Why? I don't get it. Persephone basically starts to have a panic attack and runs out of the store, and Laoki obviously follows her because she doesn't know what the fuck is going on. And Persephone says, like, she can't stay and shop anymore, which are like, cool. You should have known that before you went, that this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
So they go for coffee instead. And obviously Persephone is not okay. She basically just had a panic attack. But Laoki asks her if she wants to talk, but she says no, and she's very abrupt. And Laoki says she's sorry her friend is sick, and then she snaps back that she's hurt, she's not sick. And
oh god,
and you're like, she's trying to be nice here. What do you want from her? Laoki does apologize and says, like, she woke up days ago and all of her friends and everyone that she knew was obviously dead because she had been a tree for 2,000 years. So she, was turned into a tree, had probably an entire life and family, friends and everything, and then woke up and now has nothing. So she can kind of empathize with Persephone at the moment. Persephone asks, like, about being a tree, basically. And Laoki says she wasn't conscious as a tree. And she also doesn't blame Hades for it because they didn't have a good relationship. And she can tell that Persephone and Hades have a much better relationship. And you're like, really?
Do they though?
It seems pretty problematic. Like, if hers was worse,
it does seem...
How problematic was their relationship? But he says, like, Hades obviously loves Persephone. And you're like, okay. Laoki obviously asks about her friend then, and she says she wishes she could heal her, and Laoki says she thinks she can help, and brings up the Magi, who are immortal practitioners of dark magic. Are they immortal? They're mortal, aren't they? Did I write that wrong?
I don't know, but I will say that it reminds me of that episode or that show, that movie, The Mummy, and how the Magi are like the protectors, and they protect the world from the mummy. Yes. And there's that main one, and he's really attractive.
Yes. Okay, so
that's what I think of.
They are mortal. They're not immortal. They're mortal practitioners of dark magic. Persephone tells her she hasn't heard anything good about them, but Laoki says they can make spells for love, death, and healing, and it is illegal, but people often prefer owing a mortal a favor than owing a god a favor, which are like, fair. So basically, to meet these magi, Persephone would need to go to a club and draw their attention and then sign a contract. So Laoki gives her a card for the club, and it's called Iniquity, and it's a den of wickedness and sin, and not a place for Persephone, according to Laoki, but she argues that Laoki must not know her if she thinks that. And you're like, what do you mean? You've been stuck in a greenhouse your entire life.
You don't know her.
But, like, obviously a den of wickedness and sin is not Persephone's jam, other than Hades' bedroom. But, like...
yeah, like, where has she been that has been similar? Yeah,
and she's just like, obviously you don't know me. And you're like, but you are literally a baby child.
But also, she doesn't know you. You've known each other for, like, 2 days. And, like, you've barely spoken the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Laoki tells her, like, this could be the only way to save her friend unless she wants to make a deal with Apollo, who is the god of healing. And you're like, oof. If she didn't burn that bridge, she might be able to make that deal.
Yeah.
She says, like, Laoki says she can take her tomorrow, and they talk about how Hades will be angry. But Persephone knows that no one can protect her from him. And you're like, what does she mean by that? Like,
why do you need protection from the man that you love and that loves you, and you want to be, like, eventually be his queen? Like, why do you need protection from him?
Good. Great relationship. So the next day, Persephone lies to Hades and tells him that she is staying at home with Sybil, but she gets dressed to go to Iniquity. And Sybil asks if she needs to go do this, and she says she thinks she does. And she asks if Sybil can see anything, like, of what would happen, which just kind of makes me think back to her being like, she can't see the fates of her friends, so I'm like, why would she be able to see anything? But okay.
Yeah.
Sybil kind of just says, like, Hades obviously doesn't know she's doing this. And she says she knows that Persephone wants to save Lexa, but what is she willing to destroy to get there? And Persephone just thinks, like, she wants things to go back to the way they were before the accident. Like, that's a bit short-sighted and immature, unfortunately. So she gets a cab to Iniquity, and it's an unmarked building, and no one's around, so she goes around the back and uses her password, which is parabasis, which apparently means to intentionally cross a line. And you're like, this seems telling. Yep. So she goes inside, and the bar is full, and of, like, people dancing and dancers on stage, and Laoki grabs her hand and tells her the air here is poison, and it will draw her in, and, like, depending on if she's strong-willed or not, basically. So, like, it's interesting place. Laoki is there dressed like the dancers on the stage, so obviously she works there. And she tells Persephone to dance to get their attention, the Magi. So Persephone does. And as she's dancing, I guess the magic, air, music shit takes her over. But she thinks of Hades, like, fucking her as she's dancing, and she, like, moans out loud. But then she sees Laoki under Hades instead of her, and it breaks the spell. And you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Like,
in her head.
Like, at the club?
In her head, this is what's happening.
In her... Interesting.
Yeah. It's just... She's dancing, and she's moaning, because it's so hot, what she's thinking about. And then she sees Laoki under him, and she's like, ah. Yeah.
Interesting.
She kind of comes back to herself, and someone is dancing behind her, and she turns to, like, push them away, but then someone touches her shoulder, and then they both disappear into the crowd, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? So she leaves. She leaves the dance floor to, like, lean against a wall. And she thinks about the magic on the dance floor, and then something is thrust into her hand with magic, and it's a piece of paper with a number. 777 written, and an arrow. So she looks the way of the arrow, and there's a hallway, so she follows it, and she finds an elevator and goes to the 7th floor, and she goes into the room and sees a familiar man, and it's Cal Stavros, who is the owner of everything. I forget what it's called, but he basically owns the paper. He's the one that wanted the expose in the first place and offered to fire her.
This, do you know what this reminds me of? Like, so the Percy Jackson book / movie, when they go to the den of the Lotus Eater and they get, like, all wrapped up in that spell of the...
Eating the lotuses?
The place?
Yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me of that a little bit.
Completely. She's immediately pissed and can't not be pissed. And you're like, maybe if you didn't flash your emotions every 2 seconds at this man, we could, like, actually have a conversation with him, but no.
Yeah.
He is being creepy, though. Like, he looks at her body and says he can see why Hades is so stricken by her. Yeah, not cool. She asks what he wants, but he says, you first. And she, like, turns around to leave, but the wall, like, behind her where there was a door is now a wall of mirrors. And he tells her, once you enter antiquity, you can't leave until a bargain is struck. So, like, that sucks.
Yep.
And maybe she should have got a bit more information before she did this, but she didn't. He knows why she's there.
But this is Laoki's fault. Laoki brought her in there. Like, what did she expect?
Yeah.
So, like, Laoki is...
not a good person.
Bad news.
Yeah. And obviously, like, we'll get there in a second, but she's working there, so obviously this is Hades' bar / club. So you're like, it's just a shit show. Anyway. Yeah. He knows that she's there for Lexa, and he says Lexa will die if she doesn't do anything. And deep down, she knows he's right. So he offers her that he'll give her a spell to help Lexa if she gives him everything. And I was like, ugh, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yes.
And it's not at all what I expected. It's just, he wants every detail on her relationship with Hades. Like, every small detail on them kissing, on the first time they had sex, like, everything about their relationship, which is disgusting. And
so he wants a porno.
Which, like, I hate it, but I'm also like, that's not everything. I thought that he was going to be like, I know that you're a goddess. Like, yeah. I didn't know where this was going, but I didn't think that, I was like...
But by giving him everything, she is sort of revealing she's a goddess.
Yeah, but if he doesn't know, she can kind of skirt around it.
But can she? Like, when he says everything, if it's in their bargain, is she breaking the bargain by not telling him? Like, if she leaves stuff out, that's not telling him everything.
Yes. I guess it...
Like...
Yeah, is the magic... Like, would the magic force her? I don't think they ever get... Like...
Yeah, like, I guess, is the bargain just a bargain enough? Like... Is it just the word of these two people, or is it actually, like, a magic bargain that, like, that knows, like, an all-knowing magic that can tell when you're not holding up your end?
Yes, that is a good point. Because I just assumed that she could lie. And I was like, fucking agree to it. Like, because he even says, like, the only reason he wants it is to blackmail Hades. And I'm like, if you can get a spell to save your best friend and all you have to do is write out, like, your version of events. And he's probably not going to release it because he wants to use it as blackmail. I'd do it.
Would you?
Yeah.
You'd give all that information on the person you love?
Well, do they love each other?
Well, on the person you love.
The person you love that you've also written about way too many times and are a complete dick about. Yeah, I think I would.
Good point.
Yeah. If she truly believes that this is the only way to save Lexa, she's gonna die if not. Like, I think I'd be like, well, you hard bargain, sure.
Yeah.
But obviously, I also wouldn't have come here in the first place. I would have been like, hey, Hades, they're trying to blackmail us. Can you kill him or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
So obviously, Hades is the owner of this club. So she's looking at Cal and she notices that there's like snakes surrounding his feet, and he only notices when one goes around his neck. And then Hades appears and he is pissed. He asks,
of course
obviously,
he is.
He asks if Cal is threatening him, but Cal says never, even though he literally just said that he wants to blackmail him. And Hades, like, just kisses Persephone, like, super intensely. And I was like, this is kind of weird. But Cal says he's just doing what Hades has ordered him, what he would do with anybody that comes into iniquity. Like, this is what they're supposed to do here. But Hades tells Cal that anyone who belongs to him is an exception to the rules of the club. And he, like, makes spikes on his hands, on his fingers, and then, like, cups Cal's face and digs his spikes into his face, which is just weird. And then he throws him out of the chair, and all of the snakes follow and just start biting him viciously. And Persephone is just completely fine with it. Cal keeps arguing that he was following the rules, but Hades doesn't care, and he says you don't fuck with him or his lover. Cal asks Persephone for help, but she doesn't want to help him. And Hades asks her if he should stop, and she asks if Cal's face will scar, and Hades says it will if she wishes it to, and she says that she does want it to scar. Because I think earlier she said that he's a very handsome man, so she's, like, taking away his beauty, which is just so, like, everything she's trying to blame the gods for being is what she is also doing. Like, she's taking out her anger on people by harming them or turning them into things, or, like, it's just so hypocritical.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
Persephone tells Cal that she could make it worse and send him to Tartarus, so he basically just shuts up. And she tells him that tomorrow he's going to call Dimitri and say he doesn't want an exclusive anymore, and he will never tell her what she has to write ever again. So he basically agrees because he has no choice, and Hades sends him and the snakes away. So we also don't know where he goes.
Yeah. Which I kind of love.
Persephone turns on Hades and says he ruined everything. And he's just like, what the fuck do you mean? But he's basically like, how could you give away something so personal and that you don't want people to know to this man?
Yeah.
Basically to just condemn your friend. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's pissed because obviously Hades isn't helping Lexa. And she tells him that she doesn't trust him. And you're like, this is a big deal. And I don't know if we ever really deal with it. And she also is like, you also own this club. And you're the reason these deals are made. Like, what the fuck? Which is also fair.
Yeah.
Because, like, this is super illegal. he tells her that she doesn't belong here, but she says Laoki is here, and he says she's different, and that Persephone means more to him than anyone or anything else in the world. And you're like, that's not... Just because you care for somebody, it's just so shitty. Like, other people have the right to be okay, too.
I also feel like he's putting her on a pedestal and, like, doesn't want her touching anything, like, that is illegal or on the illegal side. Like, he doesn't want her anywhere near that life because he's putting her on this, like, pedestal of goodness. And it's like, she's not a good person. So I don't know why you feel the need to put her there.
Yeah. And he kind of a bit gets into it in this section, because, like, Persephone does ask him if everything here is illegal, and he says yes after a bit of persuasion. And he's like, obviously the Magi are illegal, there's drug lords, there's assassins, and he's set this up as a world so he can just watch them, because, like, he's a villain. Like, that is his personality. Like, this is...
But also, like, I don't know, it just seems like they're gonna do it whether or not. So, like, wouldn't you rather be informed?
Well, I guess his whole thing is, like, he judges people, so he knows that everybody in this place, Tartarus. Like, easy enough, they're in this place.
Yeah.
You know? It's just, it is interesting. And obviously, like, the quote-unquote good people won't be going there anyway, so... Yeah. He asks her who brought her here, and she just says a taxi. And he asks if she thought she would go unpunished. And she kind of pulls away from him, and he's like, are you saying no? But she wants him. So I'm like, why aren't we having an actual conversation? Why are we just going to sex? And that is what we do.
But also, like, but can I just say, though, like, the fact that he's like, ooh, I need to punish you? Like, that's not a part of their, like, agreed upon dynamic. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't, like, she has not agreed to this sort of sexual play where she gets punished for doing something wrong. Like, that's not a pre-agreed upon part of their relationship. So, like, I feel like him being like, I have to punish you now is sort of like, dude, she has not consented to this. This is not an aspect of your relationship right now. So, like, you can't punish her when that's not, like, for those people that are in those sorts of relationships where, you know, you get rewarded for doing good things, you get punished for bad things, like, 100%, like, live your life. But that's not an aspect of their dynamic. So I don't think this is the right move.
I think it's just a part of his personality that he can't not do, because in the beginning of the book, when she was like, would you love me if the fates didn't force it, blah, 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 and he brought up punishing her then, and then that's when, like, he put her against the wall, they forced in the door, ended up on the table. So, like, I don't remember it in the first book, but it is definitely something that he brings up. And, like, she, even at this point, is kind of like, She pulled away from him, and he was like, are you saying no? Like, completely about to be like, if you don't want to, I'll stop. And she said,
yeah.
She said, no, she isn't saying no. Which is a weird way to say it, because you're like, enthusiastic consent should probably be a yes, not a no, I'm not saying no. But she did say that. But I'm like, I don't love it, because she has also thought about punishing him multiple times this book by withholding sex, and he's punishing her in this way. I just feel like it's just not a healthy relationship to be punishing people, even though in this case, like, she's even like, I know, it'll feel good because he'll punish me and then I'll be rewarded. So I'm like, I don't like it, because but I guess, like, they're gods, and that's what they do. They punish people. So maybe that's, like, the logic behind it. I don't get it. Also, they should probably talk.
Yeah. Now, like, this, it's a hot moment.
Yeah, it's the desk scene that we wanted from their office that we didn't get.
Yeah. But at least the desk scene, I think, was done with good intentions. You know what I mean? I don't feel like this is a good intention. Like, this is, I'm mad at you. moment. I just don't.
But I feel like the only way they can connect is through sex. So it's like, it's unfortunate. But he pushes her over the desk, pulls up her skirt, and like slaps her ass, and she's kind of like not expecting it. So she's just like, whoa. And she is also facing the mirrored wall, so she can like watch him behind her as he's doing this. Then he takes off her underwear and puts them in his pocket.
I actually do really like that. When this happens in books, I'm like, I like
me
that.
Me too. And then he touches her and she's already soaking. And she tells him,
of course.
She tells him that it's because on the dance floor, she was thinking of him and wanted him there. And he gets her like super close to coming, but then takes his hand away, telling her it wouldn't be a punishment if she got what she wanted. But then he immediately takes his dick out and fucks her. So I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then he tells her, which like I'm okay with this part, but he says that this is for them and she will share it with no one else. Which is fair. Like, it's also his choice to share their information. Like, her telling people is, if she had have actually given out those stories, it's basically akin to like revenge porn, but like minus the porn part. But like he didn't consent to this going out. It'd be the same as like putting out a sex tape of them and not telling him. Like it's not okay. And now he's specifically saying not to, so that's something if it ever comes up again in this book. And he says like some things are sacred and this is one of them, and she agrees, and then she asks him to make her come. So he spins her around and kisses her and tells her he has never loved anyone like he loves her, and he can't even put it into words. And then they like slide to the floor with her on top, and she comes, and then he comes immediately after. And once they catch their breath, Hades says, "Marry me. Be his queen."
Ugh.
And she's just like, "What? You were just mad at me. What the fuck is going on?" And she says she can't marry him. She doesn't know him. And she says, like, he kept this place from her, and obviously Laoki, and he tells her he's lived forever, and she will always be finding out new things about him. But she counters, like, this place is real and in the present. It's not like something that she's going to find out that he did in the past. And she deserved to know about it and about Laoki. And she asks why he didn't tell her. And he says he was afraid because of her moral compass.
But, like, I agree. Like, when you're with someone, you don't just lay everything you have on the table in one go. Like, it is, like, a gradual... Like, I'm still finding out things about my husband that, you know, and we've been together for 16 years, and I'm still discovering
and,
things.
like, people grow and discover new things of themselves as well. So, like, obviously, if it wasn't, it'd be fucking boring.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like... like, what did she want him to do? Just sit her down and be like, okay,
all my sins.
I'm going to tell you about every single business I've got going on right now, every single bad thing I've done in the past 5 to 10 years, every single ex I've ever had. Like, what does she expect? Now, I don't think she's entirely wrong, because I do think they don't communicate enough, and, like, he doesn't tell her anything. He should do the trickle of information. But, like what does she wants, like, him to write a memoir of every single thing and then give it to her and be like, here, read
and
it.
He's been alive since the beginning of time. Like, it's there's too much. Like, obviously he would never tell her about Laoki until afterwards, because it was 2,000 years ago. So he says that he wanted time to figure out how to tell her about these things, but other people have taken it into their own hands to show her instead, which I think is completely fair. I understand, obviously, him wanting the time to figure it out. I do think when she was like, what other charities / businesses do you have? He could have been like, here's a list of the things, and brought up the good and the bad. Like, he could have at least told her the name of the place and been like, it's a club.
But, like, I also do agree with him a little bit of being afraid of her moral compass, because 100%. When she found out about his deals, she wrote a scathing article about him that called him down to the dirt. So, like, I understand him being concerned that she is going to, like, not approve of his less legal ventures.
100%. Yeah. And she even thinks, when he says her moral compass, she has, like, the audacity to be like, I don't understand why he thinks that. Like, I've turned Minthy into a plant, and I'm a shitty person, too. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't have, like, a place, 2 separate places where you trick mortals into deals. So, like, I think it's a bit different.
But also, what she does versus how she judges other people are 2 different things.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's also one of those situations where you're like, would he actually have told her, or is he only saying he would have because she found out? There's 3 or 4 sides to all of this.
Yeah. Also, Laoki is shady because she works there, so she obviously knew that this was Hades' club. Like let's not call her BFF just yet.
Exactly. Persephone tells him that she's sorry for coming here and for saying no to marrying him. But he says she has a lot on the go right now with obviously Lexa and her work. And I'm like, true, yes. Also, not the best time to spring a please marry me on somebody.
Yeah, right after sex.
Like punishing sex. Like, because you were mad at each other. And she starts to cry, and she's like thinking she's ruined everything by saying no to him. But he says he will always want her as his wife and queen, but she just isn't ready for it right now. And then that's done. Who cares about that?
Very understanding of him.
He's super understanding. And then she, I guess, is done crying and asks him to show her more of this place. And he kind of groans about it, but he just agrees. That's it for this week. So I don't know what we're going to learn next week.
Yeah. Their relationship is just super problematic. 100%,
yes.
But it's
everything is fine.
But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe the whole point of their relationship is to be problematic. Mm. Do you know what I mean? Because in the mythology, she's not willing. He has to trick her to stay. So maybe this is just the author's attempt to show sort of that angle of it a little bit. Like, the problematic aspect. Like, obviously we can't have a modern interpretation of him kidnapping her and her hating his guts and then him, like...
Stockholm Syndrome.
I mean, we could.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that sounds hot.
Yeah. So, like, maybe them having so many issues and, like, being such a problematic couple, maybe this is sort of her way of demonstrating that the original pairing is unwarranted and unwilling.
Yeah, that's fair.
So who knows? Maybe she's trying to make us hate them together.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Good job.
Thanks. I try. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up for this week on that note. So, if you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episodes, or if you have a book suggestion for us, please reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com. Or you could check us out on Instagram or Facebook at Coffee and Co-Read, and on TikTok at coffee.coread. Be sure to check out the Would You Rather question in the poll this week for Spotify listeners. Yeah, so next week we're going to be reading chapters 15 to 21, so make sure to follow along. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Just another note, we know this came out after Iron Flame, but we have recorded it beforehand because we are going to be reading Iron Flame this week. So that is why we have no comment at the moment on that book, because it is before it is out. So maybe next week. We're super stoked.
Yeah, and maybe next week we'll give like a spoiler-free second of our thoughts, because we are so excited.
We are very stoked, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you in the next page.